Hello and good afternoon. I am popping in with a little trauma healing lesson today. I'm going to go through some of the basics and then hopefully come up with a little exercise for you to practice this at home. But something I want to talk about today is the topic of awareness. I feel like awareness is one of those things that you hear people talk about a lot and about why it's so important, then maybe don't explain why it's so important. If you've done any amount of trauma healing, you've probably come up against awareness. Well, one, you can't change something you don't know about. So there's a very key. I love how my dog heard me talking and he came in here to be part of this because he's a little prince. Anyway, yeah, if you don't know something is a problem, you can't work on it. But beyond that, why is awareness important? Why is understanding the story behind something or the why behind something important? So I want to go back and explain a key concept in neurobiology. This concept is called neuroception. Neuroception is the ability of our nervous systems, our brains, and all the nerves that run through our body to perceive that which is happening inside, outside, and between. So I'm neurocepting constantly throughout the day what's happening inside. Is there a niggling pain in my joints? Am I hot? Am I hungry? Right? I'm neurocepting outside. It was look like it's about to rain. That might be why you have an instinct to grab an umbrella even though you don't think it's gonna rain that day. Is it cold? Is the door locked? Right? All these like outside things. And then there's also the neuroception of between. Now, remember what I said is that neuroception is tied to the oldest, earliest parts of our brain, very, very linked to survival. Between has always been, between you and me, or between anyone relationally, has always been integral to our survival. Always. Humans are inherently social beings. We are attached to someone by an umbilical cord, and then we come out and we attach to the people around us immediately, before we even come out, right? So we are always neurocepting between as well. That's why when I pick up the phone and I go, hey, and my friend goes, hey, I can immediately tell something's wrong, right? I'm neurocepting that between something's up. That is inherently tied to our safety as human beings. Inside safety, oh, does my stomach hurt? Is there a sharp pain? Is there a nagging pain in your lower back that you're deadlifting through? Note to self. Outside neuroception, oh, does it look like it's about to rain? Is there hail falling from the sky? And that between, that social piece, right? We neurocept in the parts of the brain, the hindbrain and the midbrain, mostly the hindbrain, right? The unconscious, subconscious part, what Freud would call the subconscious, all the time. Like, I think I read a crazy number once in a study that something like 6,000 times a second or a minute or so. It's crazy how much information our brain is taking in. You can also think about this as the phenomenon of you're at a party, you're talking to someone, you're having a conversation, then you hear your name across the room, right? You pick up, you hear your name, and now you're listening to two conversations because you heard your name, right? You neurocepted that between there could be safety or there could be danger. Because all this is subconscious and happening without us running it. This is our defense system. This is our protection system. This is what keeps us safe. It has to run at all times, right? We are wired for survival. We wouldn't be here if our ancestors hadn't survived. It is running unconsciously. It tends to neurocept danger before we have a story of why something is not safe. What I mean by that is parts of your brain have neurocepted danger way before your brain understands it. So, for example, I'll use the rain example. Yeah, I'll use the rain example. Okay, let's say my brain is neurocepting that outside it looks like it's about to rain, but my conscious brain, I keep putting here, it's the frontal part of your brain. The last part of the brain to develop in humans and as a human is the frontal cortex. You're thinking, reason, language, communication, logic. The one that we love to over rely on, basically. Before that is even aware, or maybe this part of my brain looked at the weather app on my phone and there was like a 5% chance of rain today. I was like, it's not raining. But the back of my brain is like, the humidity is this. I'm neurocepting the humidity. It looks cloudy. It's gonna rain. It's gonna rain, girl. and I grab the umbrella on the way out, right? Like I said. And my conscious brain's like, what are you doing? You have to carry an umbrella? That's crazy. Like, you're going to lose your umbrella. Like, don't bring it. And then I either bring it or don't. Let's say in this example, I don't bring it because my conscious brain was like, no. I go out, it starts raining, I'm in the rain. Okay, that's a light example. But where you see this get even more complicated is in situations of trauma. And that can be growing up in a family where you weren't seen, where you weren't appreciated, where you had a parent who was neglectful or abusive, you grew up around poverty or in systems of oppression. All of these things can cause that neuroception of danger to kind of go a little haywire, where we start perceiving danger where there isn't danger, or we have a hard time perceiving what is actually safe. But here's the thing, our body, this part, knows way before our brain knows. By the time it's gotten to the place where we can make a story about it, that's already traveled through so many. And this book that I was actually reading through with one of my clients, Polyvagal Exercises for Safety and Connection by Deb Dana, if you're a polyvagal theory person, likens it to a river. And if I can find how they describe the river, they basically describe it as a river where you neurocept at the top of the river, and then it moves through perception, through the state of being, how you feel, your behavior, and then finally the story. So it can even be, I'm trying to think of a good example I could give you guys of this, but my point is that the story is the last part. Sometimes the thinking brain is the last part, but it's an important part because that awareness at the end, it helps us conceptualize it and make sense of it, right? But we can also pull that awareness up to the neuroception. If we start to become more aware of what we are neurocepting, that will help us follow the river sooner, right? We don't have to make it all the way to the story making because you're having symptoms, right? Behavior was in that early. Behavior comes before story. Perception comes before story. Feelings comes before story. Body-based sensations come before story. So you might not understand what's happening until you've already pulled it through the frontal cortex, but you can understand it way sooner and work with it way sooner if you can start to become aware of your what you're neurocepting. You can do this a variety of ways. I keep going back to dance because dance is really good for this. Dance is like kind of made for this because what you're doing when you're neurocepting when you dance is listening to the music, where's your body in space, right? Which is proprioception, but that's tied to this. What shapes am I making with my body? How's my breath, right? All of those things are awareness of the body, which tends to lead us gently and funnily into what we are neurocepting in our environments. So that's why I keep going back to dance. But you don't have to do it in dance. You can do it in like writing and body scanning and in all kinds of ways to practice doing that. So a good way to even just do it is just right now to pause. If you're not driving, please don't do this if you're driving. But if you are somewhere safe, like as in not driving, and you can pause and just sort of look around and sort of actually take in what you're seeing, take in what you're noticing, take in what you're feeling in your body and what emotions you're feeling. Is this a safe environment? Is it unsafe? What makes it an unsafe environment? Or is it that it feels unsafe, but it's actually safe, or vice versa? These are important things you can practice. Now, writing is great for this, dance is great for this, all these kinds of meditations can be good for this, body scans, those kinds of things. So, but that is a key concept of somatic work is neuroception. And I didn't really so much talk about the neuroception between part today because this video is already really long, but that is something that is huge in working with couples and working in people in relationships or people who want to be in relationships. How do we neurocept safety in relationship? Or how do our traumatic experiences cause us to neurocept danger when it's not there? And how does that impact our relationships to other people? Overarchingly, I would describe the people I work with as people who really want connection but don't know how to do it because of life circumstances, usually trauma. And so that first step of that is neuroception, because that's what's happening, whether you're aware of it or not. Before you've made the story about why you're unlovable, your brain is neurocepted danger. And so we're starting to pull those subconscious, unaware thoughts forward into the front So we can use our frontal cortex to look at them and go, huh, okay, you know, I'm going to give an example. This is a really common example. When we grow up in an environment, I have a lot of clients who grow up with a parent with alcoholism or a grandparent with alcoholism. I have a grandparent with alcoholism, and their families all had alcoholism, right? Very common thing in the United States. If you grow up in a situation where your parent was unavailable because they were intoxicated, you start to neurocept danger, rightfully so, right? You're a child, you have a parent who's passed out drunk, right? And that starts to create a story that you are not worthy of being sober for, you're not worthy of being present for, you're not worthy of being safe for, you're not lovable, right? That's a very, very extremely common thread I run into, and it's got different flavors, right? As you get older and you start to date, you start to neurocept that this connection with someone else between doesn't feel safe, and you might start to narrativize, oh, I'm not lovable, I'm not worth being seen, I'm not worth feeling safe for, right? When we can pull in, we can combine our awareness of what we've neurocepted and bring in this, which loves to analyze and logic and think through, we can actually work on challenging those beliefs and saying, hey, unless this person is doing the exact same things, that's not true, right? If this person is showing up in this relationship in a way that is supportive of me, is loving, it's appropriate for the time and space that we're in, like on a first date, it's different than a 100th date. Maybe it's not true that I'm not lovable. Maybe there's different actions now I can take to confirm, reassure, explore, communicate, get support around those things. So we can use our frontal cortex to work through things rather than confirming something that we've neurocepted, right? So awareness is super important, super, super important. So my homework for you is to practice neuroception one time this week. Just sort of, you can do inside, you can do outside, or you can do between. What's here? What am I noticing? Does it feel safe or unsafe? And is that true or not? So that is where I'm going to start y'all with today. This is a nice long video, and I hope you enjoyed it. All right, have a good day.